there's a reason that there are certain people who don't want us learning our history. And it's because if you learn the history, you have to face the present. And you have to face what needs to be changed about the present. It's easier to deny that we need the change if you don't know the history, because as we would say, like Tulsa, why is there black poverty? Why? Well, because every time black community found ways to be economically viable, there was violent oppression in some instances, in others there was highways that bisected right through the economic corridors of black community, shredding businesses, cutting people off from opportunities. That was one of the fights in Syracuse that was happening when my parents were there. But I say that because I didn't learn it either in school. I didn't learn black history in school. And I was one of the lucky students going to schools where at least there was some history. But I learned it, one, because I just talk to my mother. My father died when I was 9, so there was my father's life, and then there was my mother who would talk, but also who was a bibliophile and loved books and wanted to know and understand everything, and had black artists in her gallery who were, you know, visually depicting not history, but where there was a storytelling that you could connect to and understand emotionally and want to dig deeper and understand more. And not just black history. I mean, understanding that the history of Puerto Ricans in New York City is a really important history. Or, you know, the history, Trail of Tears, when I was in high school, in a fairly liberal high school, was a half a page, and nothing else about the indigenous American experience. So if you think about it that way, you know, we have failed to teach history to everybody in every way, And, you know, it goes back to the reason I also turn this into memoir, because there's a connection point and a through point in our histories and how they're formed. And when I think of our times now where we have active book bannings, where 80% of the books being banned either has an LGBTQ protagonist or a protagonist of color, and where it can even be Pulitzer Prize winning fiction, but because it's a fiction that is personalizing a very real experience, where you can't teach black history curriculum, or where you're forced in Florida to say good things about slavery, which is simply revisionist history, is really all about a struggle to have a society that's willing to look at itself even today in the present tense. So a memoir in this that kind of links that history of my parents, which was work that happened in a historical context and it was part of the history making, connected to how we all move through the world now and what we can do about it, and that we can make change.